Is it time to take drastic action and cull the gulls? We're joined by Francine Lewis, who believes seagulls are a menace and should be controlled. And from Hampshire, wildlife campaigner Chris Packham, who says we should protect all wildlife, including seagulls. We're going to come to you in a moment, Chris. So, Francine, what have seagulls ever done to you?
Right, well, you said when you hear that cry, you actually love it. When I hear that cry, I want to scream. I think they're terrifying. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of birds anyway. I mean, I nearly went into labour 2 months early because my brother-in-law let his pet bird out into the lounge and I was literally screaming my head off. So when I see a seagull flapping those wings and a flock is coming towards me, I'm actually terrified, and terrified to have an ice cream or give my child a donut while, you know, when it was young pushing it in his pushchair.
Aren't those seagulls only reacting to the environment that they're in, thereby the tourists that have been there and have fed them?
And I tell you, if there was a seagull in my back garden and my child was, you know, fearing for its life, I would have no doubt in harming that seagull.
Well, someone who might take issue with you is Chris Packham. There's a lot of people who are not happy with seagulls.
Well, I'm not among them. I'm very happy with gulls. We mustn't say seagulls. All of the ornithologists will get terribly upset if we do that. They're a very successful group of birds, about 40 to 50 species around the world, 6 that regularly nest in the UK, and the large species that we typically see at the seaside these days are herring gulls. Now, there are about 140,000 pairs of these birds in the UK. They've changed their habits. They used to be very much gulls that live by the sea, but because of our large areas of landfill and all of the other food that we wastefully put into the environment, they have adapted to live alongside us, and therefore we do find them living way away from the sea in our towns and cities. They're quite large, weigh about 1.5 kilograms, a wingspan of about 1.4 metres, so I can understand that if they're close to you, you might feel a little threatened. But ultimately, they are very valuable members of our ecosystems that we have here. And what we can't do is cherry pick which animals we like and we don't like. We like the cuddly ones, we don't like the noisy ones or the ones that poo on our car, because all of those creatures are there together, working in a complex, dynamic harmony to keep our world in a sustainable state. And if we humans start deciding that we're going to cull a few of these things and get rid of them, then unfortunately the whole system goes into disarray.
But they're
and
dangerous.
At the moment, I have to tell you, those herring gulls are what we call
why are they protected, Chris? Why are they protected? I can understand why you protect a swan.
They're protected
because they're beautiful,
because they're declining in number. And when a species is declining in number, we obviously want to protect it, and that's why they are red listed. And the trouble with this sort of demonising of the gulls, which is going on at the moment, is it generates hysteria. People believe that they're capable of doing things which they really aren't at all. They don't attack people.
They do
attack.
No, I'm sorry, Chris.
No,
I have to stop.
They're coming to take food from people,
No, they
which
are
is very
attacking
different.
people.
Now, if the gull were large enough to predate... No.
They are.
If the gull were large enough to predate a human, they would attack them.
At the weekend.
But what they're doing is they're coming to take food because other people have been silly enough to give them food, and they've developed an association between people and food, so they'll come and steal your chips. The simple solution here is not to cull them, but to...
If we don't want to cull them, because they are doing a job, Francine, you have to accept that they're doing a job, they're clearing up our mess. How do we make things better then? How do we have a lovely time by the seaside and be safe? What can we as humans do if it's not culling?
What we do, it's a very good question, and I mean, it's one that we should frequently address. We should explore those measures which are, you know, not killing, those passive measures of controlling animals. And the first thing to do is to read the signs. They're on all of those lampposts along the promenade. Don't feed the gulls. If we continue to feed them, they develop this association between humans and foods, and they'll come looking for more. And they will obviously pick on those people who are waving their chips and their pizza at arm's length.
We shouldn't have to
feel, that's the first thing.
When we're away at the seaside, we shouldn't have to feel vulnerable having fish and chips, sitting by the sea, or having a picnic, or letting our children have an ice cream for the fear of a flock of gulls attacking them. And there have been humans attacked. There was an old man in his garden attacked and had a heart attack and died. There has been mouths been split open. There's been a lot of cases.
Angela on Twitter was attacked while she was sitting in her car waiting at traffic lights. Window was open. She wasn't eating. Was a threat. The bird came in and drew blood from her right arm on her shoulder, Chris.
That's awful.
Well, I mean, these are accidents, obviously, when the gulls are after the food and the person's probably waving their arms about, they might be making a mistake here. But can I draw your attention to a story that was in the news just a couple of days ago, where in India, a tiger, which had been displaced by flooding, jumped into someone's house and went to sleep on their bed. And that person calmly closed the door, called the authorities, who arrived. They closed the road. When the tiger had woken up after a good rest, it was exhausted, they opened the door again and they let it go back out into the jungle. A tiger. Not a gull, but a tiger.
And
we have to manifest this sort of tolerance
Seagulls
to live alongside wildlife, not become hysterical about a few gulls.
But you would be hysterical if your child was in a situation that it had an ice cream and a seagull comes and tries to take the ice cream, but actually bites it because they've got a 2-inch beak on them and pecks or makes your child bleed.
Francine, Anita says they've been there long before we came along. It's their territory.
Put things in perspective by contrasting the size of a seagull's beak and the mouth of a tiger, one of which is capable of crushing any bone in the human body and then would lead to the consumption of that person. And the gull, which gives you a little
ridiculous.
Chris, we always appreciate your input as ever. It's lovely to have you debating this with us. Francine, thank you very much. I'm not sure we're going to get the two of you together on this one, but lots of you getting in touch. And kill the vermin. Seagulls are dangerous inland and on the seafront. Jeremy says, we're in St Ives. My husband was getting ice cream. The seagull swooped down, took the ice cream out of my 3-year-old's hands before my husband had paid for it.
Diane says it's just
he had to get another one.
Oh, that sounds like a trick to me. Diane says it's not the fault of all seagulls. It's just the odd ones giving them all a bad name. Isn't that true in life?